What's going on, Bills Mafia? Welcome. Dear Lord, let's all take a deep breath. Welcome to Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show. I'm your host, Thomas DeLoss. What's going on? I know we can all let's all take a nice woosah, like a nice deep breath, man. What this has got to stop, man. They got to figure this out. These last minute wins are killing us a little, right? It's a little tough, it's a little difficult. But hey, we're back in the win column again, 2 weeks in a row after a couple tough losses, but we're back in the win column, right? Thanksgiving Day. First things first. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Welcome to Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show. I am your host, Thomas DeLoss. You can find me at the Thomas DeLoss. If you'd like to join the show, I'm going to go ahead and pop that right in the chat right now. But we would love to have you. Obviously, we'd love for you to pop in to give me what you're thinking on today's game. I know today's game was, man, another one that just makes you it really tests your will to live sometimes, right? It tests your ability to not bite all the way down to the cuticles, right? It tests your ability to not race around your living room and be stressed out emphatically. But hey, we're here. That's what's most important. They pulled off the W. And how about Josh Allen, man? When the rubber meets the road, when things might be the hardest, when the game is on the line, hit that 40-yard pass on a rope to Stephon Diggs, right? When things are at their hardest, what does he do? He puts his body on the line, gets a few more yards to get Tyler Bass a little bit closer. I feel like I'm still catching my breath right now, man. What a ending to that game. And it was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. It was not a fun game to watch, right? It wasn't. It wasn't an enjoyable game. There were parts that were fun, that McKenzie touchdown earlier, that was great. And can we talk about Isaiah McKenzie? Can we talk about Isaiah McKenzie? Where has this cat been? Where? Where has he been for weeks? And now all of a sudden, in one game, he's back to what? The Isaiah McKenzie who was in New England? We got to see more of that. We got to see more of this opportunity to utilize his speed and crossing patterns and little deep shots, right? Hand him off the ball, let him make magic happen. Maybe he just needs some confidence back, or quite frankly, maybe he is just what we thought he was, and he's just more of a gadget player. A game by game, you kind of use him in certain scenarios, and that's what works best. I'll tell you, Daniel, I feel you 100%. Stressful games. I'll tell you, and as a Bills fan, right? I mean, we know this. We know as a Bills fan, these games are stressful, but it's been stressful. It's 20 years of stress, right? We're used to this anxiety. We're used to this stuff. So should I say we should be okay with it? We should be weathered from it. I mean, we're definitely weathered. We should be callous. We should be able to handle it more. I don't know. Every week it still feels like it's pretty darn difficult to handle this sometimes. But we're doing our best in stride. We got, a couple comments. We got Roy Collins, Sam H, Daniel. Appreciate you guys stopping in so far. We have a lot of you guys watching. Hop on in, click on that link. I want to hear you guys and what you have to say. All you got to do, you don't even have to be on camera. I don't even need to see your face. Do I want to see your beautiful face? For sure, of course, but you don't have to. You can literally click that link, talk to me, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what was the most important part of the game to you. I think this might be my brother right here. We're going to have him pop right in here. First guy. What's going on, Ian?
Hey, Tom. How's it going? So happy Thanksgiving, of course.
Happy Thanksgiving.
First things first, yet again, the Bills have done a fantastic job of just giving me agita as they have for the last 7 weeks through the end of the game. Obviously, really happy with the dub. We're going to celebrate that victory Monday. But I'm worried about Josh, man. That hit he took on his knee, it looked like he was limping off the field a little bit. You got Vaughn, who looked like he was very disappointed coming out of the medical tent after a knee injury of his own. So I guess we're going to have to wait for Kyle to kind of go over the injuries on Buffalo late night with banged up Bills. But man, I'm a little nervous, happy for the win, but we're gonna have to see what's going on through Monday.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's definitely concerning to say the least. Obviously, you've got some things that you need to clean up on, and obviously Josh's injury situation right now with that UCL injury is of concern to say the least. Really, I think what it comes down to is this something that we're just going to have to deal with till the offseason? He's just going to have to it's a pain management type of thing. Is he have to get another PRP shot? It really just depends at this point. It's one of those where you take Josh out of the game, the Bills aren't winning, right? They're just not. I mean, Case Keenum, he maybe once in a while he might be able to pull off a decent drive, but he's not going to do what Josh can do. So you kind of have to ride or die with a guy that unfortunately might be a lot of nicked up. Not a
Yeah,
little, a lot of.
absolutely. I mean, and you hear guys like McAfee with all the players that had play through injuries that he's had on, talking about getting various, corticosteroid shots and in injured areas of their body. I'm hoping to hear either Josh is able to maybe potentially limit total snaps if they go up super heavy in the first half, and then the second half, maybe put Keenum in for a couple drives, and if things get out of hand, you bring Josh back in. But we got to look at starting to limit the number of snaps that he takes if we're able to actually get the score up prior to the second half.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that seems to be the big issue, right? Is being able to get the score up. I think that's what we've seen is ideally that would be the case, right? That's what you saw in the first couple of weeks is we were able to take him out in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, right now, when you're playing these style of games where you're going back and forth at the end of the game, you're not being able to stop them. Now, mind you, a lot of that, and I think a big part of what's going on right now is just the sheer number of injuries. You lost Von Miller in this game. You saw Deion Dawkins go down in this game. Spencer Brown and David Quessenberry are going back and forth between who's healthy and who's not. And when they are healthy, they're not playing markedly better than what you would expect them to at this point. There's a lot of different things in moving parts and pieces right now that unfortunately you can't get ahead enough to allow Josh to have that comfort break, right? You can't get ahead enough with all the injuries to be able to do that. um I think it's just one of those things that we're gonna have to keep trying. And just like Brian Bowers here said, which Brian, what's going on, man? Jessica Tennis, hello. We have to stop abandoning the run. Wholeheartedly agree. You gotta get Motor involved, gotta get Cook involved. Gosh, I don't even care if you have to give Isaiah the ball, right? We gotta run the ball, use the clock to as much of our advantage as possible. And we've had that happen countless times where we've had the lead and we've blown it, just for the effort of trying to pass the ball when we have a quarterback whose arm is quite frankly not up to par at this point in time. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be great to see Naeem Hines get in, maybe get a few snaps his way. Um, I guess the another big thing right now is the secondary is hurting as well. You can definitely see a lot of missed tackles where Micah Hyde would have been able to actually, or not. Yeah, Micah Hyde would have been able to make that play, and you're having a smaller, undersized cornerback try to make that play. I guess it's good to see Tre'Davious back on the field, but obviously he was only in for a couple snaps in the first quarter, and then they ended up taking him out. So hopefully we can see him in for the next game. And I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to head out and get me some dinner soon, so I'm gonna end it how we always end it with Go Bills, man.
go Bills, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you tomorrow. Or
See you
not
tomorrow.
tomorrow. It's not Sunday. It's Thursday. We'll see you Monday.
See you Monday, man.
See you, buddy. Back to what he was saying. Absolutely. There's a lot going on right now with the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, we're seeing it. There's a bunch of concerns in terms of health. And we thought that we potentially were getting through that hump. We got Trey back. I think what today was give him the first two series, let him get acclimated, let him feel comfortable, right? Excuse me. Oh, that Thanksgiving dinner. I think that's the tough part right now is you have a guy that's coming back after in literally almost 300, I think it was 364 days, right? Since he last stepped on a football field. You need to give him time to get acclimated, to get his feet underneath him. You have to really allow him to feel comfortable, especially as a cornerback, right? I think that's what this was, is giving him a couple series, let him get feel the game, let him feel comfortable, and then you can ramp him up potentially into next week. Um, I think they thought potentially that they were going to have this game under wraps and that Dane Jackson could handle the role. We saw today, and I wrote this down. I don't know if you know this, but I bring a notepad when I watch the games. I try to take notes, to things that are important, right? And I'm pretty sure one note that I have that everybody has is Dane Jackson did not look good today. Now, mind you, I think we all have to reel it back in, right? Dane Jackson has had games where he has looked really good for us. The guy has stepped in a moment's notice. Last year when Trey went down, he held his own. He held his own. I mean, that's really the truth. I think the problem is Amon-Ra St. Brown might be one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. Might as being he is. He's really talented. And on top of that, Jared Goff gets the ball out quick, and that's his first read. So you have to realize that once that ball's out, it's going right to him, and you're going to have to deal with it every time. And that's just the fact of the situation. Um, Daniel, Dorsey is not an upgraded OC some fans hope for. I think there's concerns, right? I think there's concerns. I think there's things that we need to look at in terms of play calling, designs, utilization of the run in the wrong moments, or utilization of the run at all, right? I think there was the very first series in this game. I don't know if you guys noticed it. I did. The third down play in the first series was the exact same play the last week's first down series, third down play to the T, where he rolled out to his right and just got driven out of bounds, couldn't make a good throw, and just threw it away. Same thing, literally to a T. I don't remember what the first two plays were, but it was very basic, very vanilla, very predictable, right? And the problem is right now, there Josh Allen is he's a quarterback that's based on getting a rhythm going, right? You saw in that last drive, he was rhythm, right? He was going, he was getting some momentum on his side, he was feeling it. That's when Josh Allen's at his strongest, right? That was not for most of the game. Josh Allen was struggling to get kind of a rhythm, kind of get himself into a groove. That's one thing Brian Dable did incredibly well was Brian Dable would give him some softies, right? Some plays that Josh felt very comfortable running, stuff that maybe would get the moment, the momentum going, the offense running, kind of greasing the wheel, right? That doesn't happen all that often, or at least it doesn't feel like that's necessarily the case. And I feel like Dorsey needs to kind of step back and go back to what Dable did well, which was allow Josh to find things that make him feel like he can kind of get into a rhythm. That's huge, right? That's huge. Aside from that, guys, there's a lot of you watching, a ton of you watching. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you have to say. I want your thoughts, your feelings. There's a lot of emotions. I saw Twitter. You guys are crazy on Twitter. I want to hear what you guys have to say in regards to today's game, things you're mad about, things you loved about today's game. Is there a player that you thought was impactful or a guy that you think that maybe needs to take a seat for a little bit, right? How are you feeling about the Von Miller situation? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Von Miller situation, right? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Twitter doctors out there. There are some real doctors, and then there's some Twitter doctors, right? You're going to see a lot of people that are going to sit there and say they know what's going on. They know what the diagnosis is. We don't know. We think we know. We don't know. We saw somebody step on his ankle. We saw his knee kind of give way. There's potential if you look at Banged Up Bills, who does work for myself on Buffalo Late Night and for Buffalo Rumblings, Cover One, all the different great Buffalo media outlets. Um, he said himself, it's more of a he thinks it could be an MCL sprain. He doesn't know. That's what the mechanism looked like, right? That's what we'll find out. Is hopefully that's the case, and maybe I can get Kyle to pop in real quick and let me message him, see if I can get Kyle to pop in and give us an explanation as to what he thinks it is. Let's see, and give an explanation on Vaughn. We'll see. See if we can get him in here. Let him talk about what happened. But obviously, missing Vaughn would be huge. Now, obviously, we are getting Greg Rousseau back potentially next week. We'll see. I think that's what people are kind of speculating that Greg Rousseau might come back. The hope was that it would be both. Now, the real thing is if we can see tomorrow after the MRI that Vaughn is it's only a sprain, you're talking he could potentially come back this season. Obviously, anything beyond that, we're unfortunately looking into next year, which would be a catastrophic loss for the Buffalo Bills. Um, he would be really. I mean, exactly, Brian. He's our closer. That's really what it comes down to. You lose Von Miller. That's who you brought in. You brought him in for the moment that is sometimes too big for a younger guy, right? Vaughn knows how to make those moments kind of happen, right? He's the one that knows how to step his foot on the gas and get going. Um, that's huge. That's going to be a big, big, big loss. And not only that, the other part about it, which I think is something that we have to speak to, is um, I I just don't think people realize how much of a leader he is. He's impeccably outspoken in terms of keeping the guys going that don't blink, right? He's been able to be the guy for them that leads them in the right direction. I'm gonna see if I can get Kyle in here right now. Hold on one sec, guys. This might be good. Let's see. My apologies. We're just going to try to make magic happen. Perfect. Okay. Moving on. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that happened today's game. Today's Thanksgiving spectacular was one that unfortunately came with a lot of ups and downs, right? The first one, can we talk about those jerseys? We got to scrap those jerseys. The white jersey on the blue pants, I don't think I ever want to see it again. All blue, great. All white, fantastic. Anything in between, like the blue jersey with the white pants, is horrific. And the same thing with the white jersey on top of the blue pants. I'm not sure why we're continually running with that stuff. I it's not. And then on top of it, you had those horrific Detroit Lions gray jerseys, which I'm sorry. I mean, you're talking that the two jerseys together was like the debacle between the Jets and the Bills when you had the colorblind fans that couldn't watch the game. You might as well have gone that direction at that point. Aside from that, we got to really, really work and talk about cleaning up some of these issues. There's a lot of mistakes going on right now with the Bills, a lot of careless mistakes, dropped passes, untimely penalties, just things that need to be changed, right? Things that need to get better. Stuff that I think really you're talking about a team that, for the most part, are pretty darn good, right? You don't see those mistakes. We're much better than the jerseys. Yeah, but I mean that's a low bar to cross, right? I don't think you're saying much that if it's better because their jerseys weren't great at all. Um, but this Bills team, right? Yeah, the fashion post game report. We should do that. That would be fun. Actually, I think there was somebody that talked about that wanted to do a show based on what NFL athletes looked like when they were coming into the stadium, what their outfits were. 'Cause I'm sure everybody wants to look at Matt Milano, right? That's the big one. Um, okay, got a good one right here. Can't stop the runs. I think this is something that I mentioned last week, right? I'm going to bring it up right here. Literally, my show notes from last week, right? Same thing. Cannot allow third down conversions. What are we doing? What are we doing? And I love how we're sitting here, right? And we won the game. Like you would think this was a loss for the Buffalo Bills. It's not. They won. They're 8-3, right? Currently in number one in the division. But man, you just you just can't keep having these situations happen. You can't keep allowing these long runs happen. You can't keep allowing these long passes happen, right? It'd be third down and 16, first down. Third down and 10, first down. At what point do we step back and say, we need to clean these mistakes up? Because you play Kansas City, right? It ain't going to fly. You're not going to be able to make all these mistakes and climb out of that hole, right? It was Detroit that was shooting themselves in the foot countless times. They missed a field goal early in the game. How big was that, right? You can't keep allowing these big mistakes to happen, right? You can't. Mistakes are the reason why teams lose Super Bowls. Mistakes are the reason why the Bills lost a 13-second game, right? Mistakes are the reason why the Bills lost the Music City Miracle. Mistakes. Got to clean them up. Have to clean them up. For a team that's injured, as the Bills are, you can't make mistakes on top of it because it's a hill that's just too insurmountable to climb. It just is. Quite frankly, if you're talking about a team that wants to be a Super Bowl champion, and this team has all the aspirations and all the talent, quite frankly, they have a lot of talent, right? And like what Sam said, proud of our boys. You should be. You should be proud of this team. This is an 8-3 Buffalo Bills team, right? 8-3. You go back to 2000, what? You go back to 2008. This team would be 3-8 in these type of moments, right? You need to get these mistakes cleaned up. You got to fix the little things. But let's talk about some big stuff, right? Let's talk about some big stuff that happened today. Some positives, right? Matt Milano. What can you say about Matt Milano? I mean, besides he's an all pro, right? He might be the best linebacker in the NFL right now. And I'm not saying that as just like as a Bills fan. His impact outside of that one missed tackle, which my jaw almost disconnected from my mouth. His impact in every single game is unbelievable. It's unquestioned, right? I mean, you're talking back to like London Fletcher and what he was able to do back in the day, right? What Daryl Taylor was able to do back in the day, right? Like some of the most impactful Bills linebackers of all time. That's Matt Milano. Matt Milano is playing himself into one of the greatest Bills linebackers to ever don the Bills line or uniform. His ability to understand what's going on in front of him is some points second to none. Second to none. Guys, we're 22 minutes into this. I want to hear from some of you. Call in. I don't have to see your face. You can just click that and just talk to me. It could be 10 seconds. You can tell me what you guys are thinking. I want to hear what you are feeling on today's game. Click that link. Call in. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you had for dinner. I'm pretty sure it's turkey, but who cares? I don't care. I don't care. You don't care. We don't care. Let's talk. Right? Let's talk about today's game. Back to Milano. Milano is unbelievable, man. His ability to truly get to the ball, to get to the wide receiver, get to the flat, get to the soft spot in the zone where he knows the wide receiver is going to be. He's just unbelievable at his point of contact, his ability to diagnose, to get off blocks, to get through the hole. He's fantastic, quite frankly. And then we also have to talk about Tremaine Edmonds, right? Tremaine Edmonds, man, we need him. But I will say, AJ Klein for coming in a pinch. Guy didn't do half bad. For a guy that has been on what now 4 teams this season, not bad in a pinch, right? The guy did what he needed to do in the right moments to step up and do really everything he could to lead in the middle of that field. Now let's go back to some of these notes that I had here so I can kind of keep talking about today's game. And I appreciate you guys sticking with me here. Another thing we got to talk about, man, Spencer Brown. I think right tackle at this point has got to be a point of emphasis going into this offseason. David Questenberry hasn't really held his own. And man, did Spencer Brown get eaten alive today. Eaten alive. The guy was getting turned inside out. And that's the problem is when you've got an injured quarterback like Josh, you're going to get the guy killed. You're going to get him killed. The guy has no time to be able to get that ball off. And you got to think, I know a lot of people are sitting there saying, what's going on with the offense? What's happening? Why are we not being efficient? Right. Obviously, there's some issues, some timing issues between Diggs and Josh and Davis and Josh, right? But then there's the other side of things. If Josh is not comfortable in the pocket, right? Comfortable meaning if he is not feeling like he's not going to get sideswiped or he's not going to get hit, especially with his throwing arm already not feeling great, right? He's obviously protecting that. He's probably guarding it a little bit. You have to sit there and say, if my right tackle is not protecting me, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm going to be in a world of hurt, right? Something that's got to change. It's got to get better. It's got to be a situation that we hone in on and look at and say we need somebody at least improved, or at least you need to step back and say what's going on with Spencer Brown. Why is there such a regression from last year? Because we've seen very quickly that he just hasn't been the same guy as he was at one point. Another one we want to talk about, Nyheim Hines. Man, Nyheim Hines, man, when he touches that ball, he is absolutely electric. Unbelievable. Fast, quick cuts. That first step, man, when he plants his foot and goes, it's an immediate impact. It's like Terrence McGee back in the day, right? A guy that you could sit there and say, get him the ball. And that's what you need to do. We need to get him involved. The first play of the game, he took a handoff. I thought, man, I was like, okay, let's go, Dorsey. We're going with Nyheim Hines today. We're going to give him a dose. We're going to give it, we're going to give him a dose of Nyheim Hines. Not so fast, Thomas. Not so fast, Bills fans. That ended quickly, right? I'm not sure what exactly happened. I thought we were going to get a nice dose of Nyheim Hines there, and unfortunately, it seemed as though that all ended real quick. I'm not entirely sure what the hesitation with getting him involved is because I think having speed right now on this team is going to be something of massive importance, right? If we can try to help Josh, like I said earlier in the show, if we can help Josh and make him feel more comfortable, that's what we need to do. We need to find outlets to getting the ball out of his hands fast where you know he's not going to get hit. He got sacked quite a few times today, right? We need to make sure that that stops happening. And the fastest way to do that is get the ball to a running back like a Naeem Hines, like a James Cook. It's got to happen. We got to clean those things up. We got to make things a lot easier on our quarterback, especially a guy right now who is struggling physically to continue on with these games, right? Now let's talk about another thing right now. We got to talk about Josh's arm. Got to talk about Josh's arm. There's obviously something going on. Josh's arm has been a huge, huge issue in terms of what exactly is, what's the question, right? Because a lot of people after the Browns game were like, I don't think it's actually as bad as potentially everyone thought. You know, all the news reporters were sitting there saying, well, he's not wearing a brace. He might be okay. He's throwing in front of the media. He might be okay. Things are okay. Maybe he's trending in the right direction. I don't know, man. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you guys in the comments watching right here. And I'd love for you guys to communicate. I talk to myself enough. I don't need to do it for an hour straight. I'll tell you, when it comes to Josh, I think the big thing that we have to really worry about is how long is this going to go? Is this something like I was talking to Ian a little bit ago? Do we need to start worrying about pain management, right? Is this something that we need to sit there and say, this is going to be a long-term situation, at least until the offseason? Because Josh Allen was 24 for 42, 253 for 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Actually, we got a caller right now. We got Sam here. Sam, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother?
Thomas, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, brother. What do you want to talk about?
Just wanted to run through a couple points you've already been through. My favorite Bills linebacker of all time is Takeo Spikes. Getting some Takeo Spikes vibes. I've always been a Duke Johnson guy. I'm not sure why Duke can't get the ball. I just think he has the best hands on the team. So let's get Duke out there a little bit.
I think the big thing with Duke is I think it's just a product of numbers, right? I think that's the biggest thing right now that Duke really is very, very good in terms of, I mean, we saw the kickoff return he had. I think it was against the Vikings, was electric, right? He sparked the team. I think that's been something that, if he can add a little bit of spice there. But the issue is with so many injuries across the team, they're having to kind of backload with a lot of guys to kind of fill gaps because so many guys are nicked up and dinged up. It's hard to carry that many running backs, right? Because technically Taiwan Jones, even though he is your gunner on the team, he's also a running back. You have James Cook, you have Naeem Hines, you have Devin Singletary. At a certain point, you just can't carry that many and then also have as many linebackers as you need for depth and linemen. I mean, you saw what happened today. Had we not had all those backup linemen, right, you would have been in a lot of trouble with Dawkins going down and with obviously the big issues with Morse. You have to have a certain number of talent behind him, right? And then the other one, Takeo Spikes, one of my all-time favorites, right? I think Takeo Spikes, we called for him when he was playing here against the Bengals, and he ended up coming in. He was an unbelievable talent. I see a lot of similarities. Their assertiveness and style of trying to get to the ball as fast as humanly possible, an aggression level. The only difference is I think Matt Milano is a little bit more subdued. He's a guy that is a little bit more of a soft-spoken presence. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. I think if he turns out to be what Takeo Spikes was for the entirety of his career, we're in for good things.
Oh, and two more points. The first one 100%. Is I think this Bills team gets its energy from the Steph Josh connection. So whatever was going weird at the start of the game, I felt like that had an effect. So as long as those guys can come up big in those moments, it just from a chemistry energy perspective, I just feel this surge of belief that rushes through the Bills. I believe this team can't be beat when everyone is kind of like vibing in that positive direction.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I mean, you have to think, right? Some of the best teams in history, they have relied on their star power or the guys that are leading the team to kind of propel them in the biggest moments, right? That's why they are stars, right? That's why Josh Allen is who he is, because even at the lowest point of a team's game, right, or a team season, they're the ones that can propel them from the pits of misery, right? That Josh Allen's the guy and say, okay, guys, hop on my back. Let's go. I'm carrying you to where we need to be. And that's what he does sometimes. You saw it today. You saw him, that 40-yard pass right at the end of the game that, got them into position. That's what happens, right? The best talent in history, whether it's Michael Jordan, right? Or you got LeBron James or Tom Brady, right? Some of the best who have ever done it. That's what happens, right? Those are the guys that you can sit there and say, well, you know what? When the rubber meets the road, when you are in you're the moments where that you need the biggest guys to step up. That's what they do. And you're right. The team relies on those two. And I feel like you're kind of, when they were kind of out of sync, you could feel it. Like things were just a little strange.
And then my last point is I just thought Tony Romo made a great observation about Josh going back to his lower body mechanics with the elbow injury,
right.
Throwing with his legs and his abs more. Obviously, I'm not sure how much the elbow affects deceleration, because from like a baseball perspective, we know how hard you can throw depends on how quick you can decelerate your arm. So I'm not sure how much the injury affects that. But Josh getting back to just being a more mechanical thrower, I think that could really, if he does that, I think that could really help moving forward.
Right. And that's the tough part. I mean, obviously it's all just, and Tony Romo is going to be a guy, if there's anybody that would potentially know, and he can see that Josh is using more of his abdomen or he's using more of his body, I'm fairly confident he'd be the one that would be able to pick that out. I mean, the guy can see a play happening before it happens. But you can look back to last week, that touchdown pass he had to Diggs. He literally threw himself to the ground because he was throwing so hard with his body and not his arm. And then you're also seeing those out routes, right? Those little quick timing out routes to the sidelines. He's not being able to get those throws because they're the ability for his body to turn that way. He's not relying on his arm anymore, he's relying on his body. So I do believe that's probably in fact the case. And that's going to be something that's going to be tough, right? You're going to see for him, especially in colder weather games. I mean, I feel like in a dome, it's not going to be as tough for him. But when you're playing in a game that's really, really cold, that could impact him long term as to being able to make those throws on the fly. But then again, he also threw a 40-yard pass on a rope to Diggs. So, I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, Josh Allen's he's a cyborg, so who knows?
Hey, go Bills. We'll get some pizza.
Go Bills, Sam. Thanks for calling in, man. So yeah, like we were talking about with Josh. Obviously there is a lot going on with Josh, and I know he's the one we talk about a lot. Obviously, he's our star quarterback. He's the most polarizing guy on this team. He is, the one that you ride and die. If the game doesn't go well, it's because of Josh Allen, right? Generally speaking, if Josh doesn't play well, shit hits the fan. If Josh doesn't play well, you're not going to probably win the game unless everything goes right? And the running game's rocking, right? But we haven't really had the running game going. We got peaceful sleep right here. Dorsey is not calling good games. We abandoned the run while we are up 5 and trying to finish out the game. He counts on Allen's magic, and we can't be that imbalanced, especially when Josh is not 100%. I'm there with you. I think the big thing right now, and I've said this before, I think the utilization of the run last week was partly because of the Browns, but I thought, and maybe I was wrong because today's game script was far from it, I thought that they were leaning on the running game because they realized that with Josh Allen being 95% of the offense, if his arm isn't right, the offense is gone, right? If his arm isn't right and something happens and he can't play, there goes your offense, right? You need to have balance to be able to continue to stay in games because the defense is already struggling. You've seen it. Now, mind you, they only let in 25 points, which ironically enough, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, the Bills scored 28, the Lions scored 25. That is exactly the total that each team gets, their average points each week. The Bills average 28 and the Lions average 25. So weirdly enough, and it did exactly as you would have anticipated it to, minus the over. Richard Rush hopping in, just hopping to say, hi, go Bills, time for dinner. I know I'm in a weird spot, unfortunately, with that 12 o'clock game going into the 4 o'clock hour. I know a lot of people are probably sitting down for dinner, which, again, guys, I just want to say first things first, happy Thanksgiving. I know this is a time, I have a pregnant wife and she's over there with all the rest of my family. I came back to our house, which is about 15 minutes away. I can't be with them right now. I'll be back there in a little bit once we're done with this show, but um it's a great time to be with be with your family. The rest of my family's up in Boston. If they're watching, love you guys. Wish I was there with you all. I'll tell you, it's a great time to be with family. Thanksgiving is one of those moments where you sit back and you appreciate everything. I get to sit back every day and appreciate my wife and everything that I am blessed with. I have a pregnant wife. I a soon to be born son. My son Griffin. He'll be born roughly January 17th is his due date. So who knows? We'll see. But super exciting times. But it's exciting to be blessed with a lot of things. It's exciting to be thankful for a lot of things. And that's something that I want to talk about, right? As Bills fans, right? And that's when I said at the beginning of the show, woosah, right? Take a deep breath, take a step back. You got to be thankful, right? This is a season of being thankful. It's Thanksgiving. We're going into Christmas, right? Some of my favorite times of the year. You got to be thankful because guess what? It wasn't that long ago where this team was terrible. And not just terrible, 20 years of pitiful misery, right? You got to be thankful for the fact that we have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. We have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. We have one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. We have one of the best cornerbacks who just came back today in the NFL. And we're going to have a shiny, bright new stadium in 4 years. That's cool too. We'll all be broke, but that'd be fun. We'll still be able to watch them. You got to be thankful, right? And I think that's something that I've talked about a lot of people with, whether it was Aaron Quinn from Cover One or Joe Miller or whomever, right? I've talked to a lot of people, right? These moments are fleeting. These moments are fleeting. Literally, just the other day, I was talking with people at training. I was sitting next to Joe Marino and Joe Miller at training camp, and we were trying to figure out who was going to be the starting 5 wide receivers, right? And then maybe a 6th. And would Isaiah Hodgins make the team? Now he's on the Giants, right? We are now going into week 13. Our next game, next Thursday, week 13. Where's the season gone, right? You got to take a step back and enjoy the ride. That's something that I know a lot of Bills fans, unfortunately, forget sometimes is you got to enjoy the ride. You got to enjoy where you came from and where you're going because guess what? As soon as we forget it, Josh Allen's going to be retiring and we're going to be starting all over again. So enjoy the ride. Enjoy the fact that we have one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and he can do things most people could never do in their entire career. Quite frankly, is what it is. Guys, there's a lot of you watching. Come and join me. Somebody make my millennium. Come and talk to me. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you thought about the Bills game. Tell me if somebody pissed you off. I want your emotions. I want your feelings. I want whatever's going on inside that noggin of yours. Well, let's talk about some of the stats for today's game. Josh Allen was 24 for 42 for 253, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not a great game, not a bad game, right? Could have been better. Not his best performance. Josh Allen again leading rusher. Not good. Not good. 10 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Now, mind you, some of those were in big moments, right? You saw a lot of those rushes came at the end of the game because, well, the Bills were really struggling and they needed kind of a pop. They needed some life given back to the team. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you need to risk it for the biscuit, right? And get Josh Allen in those moments. You had Devin Singletary, 14 for 72, and then big drop off. James Cook, 2 carries, 4 yards. Naeem Hines, 1 for 3. And then you go back to the wide receiver room, right? Isaiah McKenzie was the leading receiver, 6 receptions, 96 yards, and a tutty. And then Stephon Diggs, man, talk about a good ending to a game. At one point, he had 3 catches, 12 yards on 10 targets. Stephon Diggs ends up 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs had 18 targets today, and I might actually be missing one. That's ridiculous. That's insane. Or no, not 18, 15, 16, somewhere around there. Whatever. I can't add. My wife's the math teacher. Doesn't matter. It's fine. And then Gabe Davis, 4 for 38. Dawson Knox, 2 for 17. 2 for 14 for James Cook, 1 for 8 for Devin Singletary, and you saw a little splash of Quentin Morris. Guys, these are the games that unfortunately we were hoping would not be the type of games we were playing through. Unfortunately, right now, with what's going on with Josh Allen's arm, right? This might be status quo for a little bit. This might be status quo for the rest of the season. We just don't know. We just don't know the health of Josh Allen at this present moment where we can sit there and say, well, he'll be fine. We shall see. The defense. Let's talk about Ed Oliver. Let's talk about Ed Oliver. Man, 2 weeks in a row, this guy has been lights out. A guy that, quite frankly, is truly not necessarily playing for a contract because he's still got 2 years left on his. But just like we did with Dawson Knox, is this a potential guy that you could sit there and say, well, maybe re-up him early to try to avoid the cost of his contract going up, exponentially. He's been fantastic thus far. We saw Daquan Jones get a sack today, a guy that stepped it up and has stepped it up this season, man. He has been unbelievable in the middle of that field. As a one tech, he's a guy that we've been waiting for, right? Huge. And then we saw a couple flashes from other guys throughout the game. Taron Johnson has had another excellent performance. He's just so strong as a nickel cornerback. You can always rely on him. He's so consistent. The one thing I do have to say is, man, I was a little concerned with Damar Hamlin today. A guy that's really stepped it up big time, filling in. A guy that really we thought was, kind of cementing himself as potentially the future. And I'm not saying he isn't. So don't take my words and let's get him all twisted up and screenshot this and put this on YouTube and say, I'm saying this. It's not that. But there's some big missed tackles. In a game like today, where you win by 3 points in a game of inches, those are the moments that you really need your guys to step up big time, right? You need your guys to step up and make huge plays for you to be able to actually stop them in those moments. That's big. Guys, I want to see some of you guys pop in. We got around 15 minutes or so left in the show. I know a lot of you guys are probably starting dinner, so unfortunately, this is probably the worst day to do this show, but it's okay. But if you guys want to talk, hop on in. I'm going to pop the link right here. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys are feeling about today's game. Is there a guy that specifically stood out to you? What are your thoughts on Josh Allen's injury, right? What are your thoughts on Von Miller's injury? Man, I'll tell you, it's intriguing. I think Von Miller's injury could be unfortunately something that you have to step back and say we're in a lot of cause for concern. And that's on top of AJ Epinesa and Greg Rousseau already missing time. We were only down to three defensive ends the entire game. Not good. Not a good look right now. And then let's go back to a couple other things. Tyler Bass, man. Tyler Bass. Is this guy becoming one of the best? How much more does he have to do to usurp Steve Christie as the best Bills kicker of all time? I mean, the guy is unbelievably clutch. This is now 2 weeks in a row where he has had monster field goals to keep the Bills in the game. Monster. That's what you need, right? You need in games like this, you need somebody to step up. I said it last week and I'm going to say it again. You needed Tyler Bass, and Tyler Bass came through twice. That's huge. Now, mind you, it doesn't hurt that both games were in Detroit. I'm sure that probably made his job a little easier. He was acclimated to the field. He was acclimated to the environment. He had 2 straight weeks of warming up on the same turf. No wind, no elements, right? It's beneficial. That's huge. But obviously, that's somebody that you need to rely on. Somebody that's big for the Bills. Big. Can we also talk about Gabriel Davis today? What's going on? He had a couple good catches, but man, you really got to start wondering what's going on with him. What's going on with Dawson Knox? Dawson Knox got a huge contract going into this season, and he's been invisible. Invisible. He had 7 catches last week, 2 catches today for 17 yards. Got to get him at least somewhat invested into the offense early and often. And the same thing with Gabe Davis, right? We went into the season and the big topic of conversation was Gabe Davis. I mean, everyone was like, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, man, what a 1-2 punch. Bills are loaded. Tell ya, I'm a little concerned with Gabriel Davis. Little concerned that he's not really stepping up in those moments that you need him to, especially on a Lions team that was missing its number one corner. Jeff Okudah wasn't even on the field. So what's going on? What are we doing? Are we not able to beat their third corner? Because Diggs found a way late, right? Diggs was able to find a way to be a part of this offense. Not good. Not good at all. This is something that you really need to look at. But I think the big point today for today's game, right, is consistency. That's something that's been a big point of contention the last how many weeks since the Packers game, right? Second half, total implosion. Week after that, total implosion. Every single week thus far has been a total implosion in their second half game. They've just been up and down and left and right, completely lacking any consistency in terms of their play style, their game, their ability to kind of garner any type of momentum when your wall, their backs are against the wall. That's huge. You need moments where players can step up and say, I've got this. Now, you saw that at the end of the game, and kudos to Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and the rest of the Bills team, man. They came alive right at the right moment. Maybe that's sometimes just what you need. You saw it last year in the Chiefs game. Last year when they played the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? Honestly, most of the game was kind of bad. It wasn't that great. Josh Allen wasn't all that impressive for the most of the game. He came alive at the end. Came alive at the perfect moment. Maybe that's just what you need. Maybe that's just what has to happen sometimes. You just need Josh Allen to step up. But what we need is to be able to, when you get ahead, to utilize the game plan the right way. Right? A lot of people have said we need to get the run game involved. It's true. Got to get the run game involved. Got to get people back into the actual rhythm of the game. You got to get Devin Singletary. Now, we had 14 carries today. Better than average. But you got to get James Cook involved. You got to get Naeem Hines involved. Josh threw the ball 42 times. So obviously it was a passing script. And I'm sure they probably lent it to that because of the fact that Jeff Okudah was not playing. All right. Makes sense. Attack their weakness. But you were seeing that Devin Singletary had 5.1 yards a carry. The guy is on average, and let me check this right now, but I believe, if I'm correct, Devin Singletary's got to be close to 5 yards a carry on the season. Let's see. Got to be darn close. Let's take a look right now on Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is averaging 4.4 yards a carry, 4.4. 110 carries for 480 yards on the season. Still, not bad at all. And then the other two, James Cook, he's averaging 5.8 yards a carry. That's huge. Isaiah McKenzie's averaging 7.0 yards per carry. Now, mind you, he's only carried the ball 5 times, and most of them are really kind of inserted, gadget plays, right? Where it'll be a misdirection. They'll hand it off, and he'll run between the tackles. The big thing is you saw last week when the Bills had a good offensive balance, minus the mistakes that could potentially close that game. When the Bills had good balance, they had the game in hand. You had 180 yards passing, 180 yards rushing. Now, obviously, would you like to see Josh be more efficient than 180 yards passing? Because a lot of that was just purely just not great throws or dropped balls, right? But at that same time, you still need to have that competitive balance, because when you go against teams that aren't as deficient as the Lions, you're not going to have an easy day, right? When you're playing against teams like the Chiefs, right, you're not going to have an easy day. You need to be able to do things effectively at all costs so that your team can succeed. Now we're closing out at the end of the show, guys. I want to hear from any of you. Anybody, any last minute takers on hopping in the show. We would love to hear from you. We'd love for you to step in and tell me what you're thinking on today's game. Tell me any projections going forward. What you think about the Patriots game coming up next Thursday in Foxborough. Oh, there we go. We had Stefan Meyer popping in from Germany. I knew you were here last week as well. Welcome from Germany. That was definitely a pretty rough game to watch, and it was definitely tough to enjoy for sure. That's one of those games that you have to sit there and you kind of just have to will yourself through the game, right? You have to hope that it turns out okay in the end. But that's a nice thing. They still won. They still got through it. They still managed to succeed at all cost, and that's what you want. But let's kind of touch on a couple of last minute things before we close out this show, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously, going forward, we're not going to have Thanksgiving on the same day as this show. Next week, it'll be a Thursday night. So, right after the game on Thursday night, you'll be able to hop right in. You'll see my tweets. If you aren't following me, go ahead, hit that follow at the Thomas DeLoss. Give me a follow. You'll be able to see all the tweets in regards to this show. It's every game day, following immediately once that final whistle goes. That's when the show will go live. I'd love for you guys to join me. I'd love for you guys to tell me what you guys are thinking about the game. Got Stephen Meyer again. First Pats will be very important. Hope we get some players back. Absolutely agree. Hopefully we get Greg Rousseau. Hopefully tomorrow we find out that Von Miller's injury was not nearly as impactful or as long term as a lot of people are speculating at this point. We'll have to see. We just don't know at this point. But yeah, getting some players back is going to be huge going forward. You know, the one thing that I'm hoping is that we're able to actually stop the run, because outside of that, the Patriots just aren't that great of a passing team. You've seen their offense between Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones has just not been prolific. So we'll see what happens there. But going forward, obviously, this is the team that, we've seen some flashes. We've seen some things that have gone really well. And then we've seen some things that, unfortunately, just kind of faltered. And that's something that we need to clean up, things that they need to work on. I know McDermott is constantly checking boxes and making sure of finding ways that he can be a better coach, right? To coach the team to be more consistent, to make better tackles, to create more opportunities, right? That's the stuff that you need to have happen. You saw that almost happen with AJ Klein today, almost picked that ball off because of pressuring Jared Goff. Those are things that continually need to happen. Not taking untimely penalties like Tim Senel did on the 2-yard line by having his helmet too far over and his hand too far over. Those are just things that you need to clean up, unfortunately. And I think those are things that will change, right? Those are things that will get better. We'll see that. But again, those are clerical errors that I think this Bills team has enough talent to be able to bypass. Aside from all that, obviously, here at Buffalo Late Night, we have some fantastic shows. My show, Monday nights, Buffalo Late Night, is going to be coming up soon. That is Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Come join us this Monday. We would love to have you. Love to have you join the conversation. Tonight at 9 p.m., we have the Overreaction postgame show with Joe Miller on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. Go join Joe. He's got a great show. I'm sure it's going to be another great show tonight. And then we have also other fantastic shows on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, whether it's the Code of Conduct, the Hump Day Hotline. We got 3-Man Rush with Jerry Ostrowski, Sarah Larson, and Colt Schroeder. We've got a variety of different content on the Buffalo Rumblings Network, including the show, the Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show, which we've only seen 2 call-ins today, so kind of, but we'll get there. It's a work in progress, right? But guys, I truly appreciate you. I truly appreciate those who stepped in today. Actually, we got one last thing from Stephen Myers. Did you get any more information on the Von Miller injury in the U.S.? Not much info on German TV. As of this point, we have not heard anything outside of, what's speculated or what has been speculated. They think it could potentially be an MCL sprain. It could be an MCL tear. Nobody really knows. He's going to have an MRI tomorrow. They are going back to Buffalo tonight. So they'll have a full week between today and next Thursday when they play the Packers or the Patriots. You've seen Packers, the Patriots on Thursday Night Football in Foxborough, which is where all my family is right now in Boston. Ironically enough, so that'll be an entertaining game. But no, nothing yet as of that. But obviously, again, this has been Buffalo Late Night. I truly appreciate you guys all stopping in and checking us out. Would love for you guys next Thursday, to stop in immediately following every Bills game. We will be here taking your calls, taking your chat, hearing what you guys have to say in terms of the Bills game. Obviously, this is a great time to spend time with your family. I hope all of you have a very, very happy holiday, a very happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys get all that you guys want on Black Friday. I know there's some pretty cool sales out there. We'll see. But most of all, spend time with your family. Spend time actually with, the ones you love. Go eat some great pumpkin pie. I'm going to go back to my family's house and eat a bunch of pie. I'm hoping they have peanut butter pie. I don't know. Or no, my wife does. My wife has peanut butter pie. She tortured me all week with it. And now she's going to be able to actually allow me to eat it unless it's gone already. And then that'd be the worst thing in the world. I'm rambling. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Everything's fine. Guys, I truly do appreciate it. My name is Thomas DeLoss. You can find me at the Thomas DeLoss. You can find all of our content at Buffalo Rumblings, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter, which is Buff Rumblings. Guys, as always, we're going to start this just the same way we finish this. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate everything that you guys do, stopping in every single week. Let's hit it. Bills are 8-3. It is Victory Thanksgiving Day. Go Bills.